Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. Happy holidays. Today, I've got a very special guest coming out of Vancouver, Harmony Woodington, and she teaches clients how to create a harmonious relationship with your mind and body. She's got over 7,000 followers on Instagram, and she's got a Neural Pathway Reawakening course, which she teaches clients. And just the title seems very interesting, and I'm really happy to have her on the show and add value to the audience. Harmony, welcome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know these are holidays times, and briefly describe your journey, and I'm really excited to dive into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to share. So, like most people who end up doing this kind of work, I came from a family with a lot of dysfunction, and my mother actually was ritually abused. My father was born in Wales post Second World War, which was a very depressive state. Southern Wales took a lot of damage during the Second World War. And during that particular time, they were really taught to not talk because they were so terrified of any kind of Nazi spies hearing what was going on. So the term loose lips sink ships. It was something that was really prevalent. And so they became incredibly tight-lipped. And as a result of that, when they were at the dinner table, even post Second World War, they didn't talk about anything. They didn't talk about their feelings. It was just pass the salt and that was it. And so him and his siblings all grew up with like all mental health issues. And so I ended up growing up with a mother that really wasn't very present and had a lot of psychosis as a result of her abuse, and a father who was depressed and not present. And so it created all sorts of issues for me growing up. And I had my own path that I had to walk to reconcile that. And the first catalyst was a major car accident in 2012. It literally forced me out of the work that I was doing and into focusing on healing because I suffered from a severe concussion. And then as I started to recover and heal from that, my father made an attempt on his life and ended up in the hospital. And there were a lot of things that were discussed that really put me in that place where I felt very fragile from an emotional standpoint. And I realized that it was time for me to start walking the healing path. And I didn't find the answers that I was seeking within the traditional allopathic practitioners because of the fact that I was dealing with religious and spiritual stuff on top of the family trauma as well. So I had to seek outside of that space. And I found healers and I found hypnotherapists and different practitioners that played in different worlds that allowed for me to be able to focus my energy inwards and explore the universe and spirituality and reconcile all of that for myself. So I became very passionate about learning the language of the subconscious mind and how the mind works, because really I came to the realization that the power and the answers and everything I was seeking was not in my conscious mind. So I became a hypnotherapist because when I become really passionate about something, I want to become it. So I became a hypnotherapist. I became an energy healer. And then eventually I started to actually dive into neuroscience to really develop a next level understanding of how the mind works. And over a decade of working with clients, developing my own program, my own intellectual property, innovating to create solutions for my clients as they present them to me, I ended up creating what is called the energy integration system. And it's a holistic program that I take all of my clients that work with me one-on-one. And then more recently, the program that you were bringing up, which is the Neural Pathway Renewal process, that came to me just this last summer. And it was a culmination of, I would say, 10 years worth of intellectual property that came into this powerful process that basically helps you to be able to tap into what your mind is already doing, what you already do in your life to learn how to do things, and then eventually learn how to do it on repeat, on autopilot. But you now bring the awareness of how these systems and processes work. And you can apply it now to the areas of your life that you feel challenged, that you feel stuck, that you feel lost. And when you hit that, you can then walk through this process to bust through those challenges, now understanding how your mind works and not just working with your own mind to bust through those blocks and to learn how to create new neural pathways and hardwire them, but also learning how to communicate with the universe, communicate with yourself, and develop sustaining processes that actually hold space for you to be able to honor your mental health and your emotions and all of those things that you go through as you're busting through and you're coming out of maybe trauma or leaving a situation that's unpleasant or you're working towards goals. We need something that sustains us and supports us. So it's very holistic when it comes to people looking to make change.
Mm,
And it creates long-term solutions. And the thing that's beautiful is once you learn this process, it can be your guide and be by your side supporting you for the rest of your life. So it's a lifelong tool.
mhm. Yeah, fascinating. And we'll talk what's I've always been fascinated with just this idea of neuroplasticity and when they talk about healing the nervous system, like looking at the nervous system as an organ, which has been first thing is what are some of the most common mental and energetic blockages you've seen in high achievers and how does this manifest? What does it feel like and how you help clients overcome them?
There's one particular client that I actually worked with him. What was really interesting was the first time that I worked with him was when the biggest breakthrough happened in our first session, because he had worked with all sorts of other practitioners before and paid the big money, but nobody actually truly held safe space for him. And being a very high level businessman, being a high achiever, being a multimillionaire, and constantly having people that want things from him, that want to take and get things from him, he didn't know who to trust. Who do you share your secrets with when you don't know who you could possibly trust? And so when he came and he worked with me, his biggest block was not in finance. It wasn't in business. It was in trauma that he had been holding on to for 50 years. And when we worked together and he was able to be transparent and he was able to release that, he said it completely changed his whole life. And he hadn't even talked to his wife he'd been married to for that long about it. You know
Oh,
what I mean? So having that safe space to be able to release those things that you don't think necessarily are going to make an impact in business that happened in your past and being able to reconcile yourself and break free of that can be such a powerful catalyst for joy, for nurturing relationships, for opening up doors you didn't even see coming because you were holding on to this trauma that's been holding you back and causing you to self-sabotage and you didn't even realize it.
oh, interesting. The so what is this energy integration system and how does it differ from traditional coaching or energy methods?
The energy integration system is unique for multiple reasons. One, because it's my baby, so it doesn't exist anywhere but with me. It's also got proof of concept. And this is what's really important is that every element to the program that was created to innovate with my clients, to give them solutions and give them answers. And the thing that's really important to understand is the allopathic model honors the organ of the brain. Okay. And a lot of the work that they're doing is in cognitive therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is really in the conscious mind. It's not honoring what's going on in the subconscious mind in the 95%. And so when you're only honoring a person as a brain, as an organ, you're missing everything else, everything that you were before you came into this life. You're not honoring the energetic. You're not honoring the 95% of the mind, which is the subconscious, right?
Yeah.
So and we all know that when we make a conscious decision that we want to do something in life, something holds us back. You can make a decision that you want to do something, but when you use willpower, you're only going to get so far. You have to honor the programming that your subconscious mind is holding on to in order to get those long-term results. And the other aspect is the energetic. So when you are looking to make a change about with something and you work with somebody that understands how programming works and they help you to update your programming, if you have energy in your body that's holding on to trauma, you're going to still end up creating pain. You're going to end up creating situations that are going to let you know that there is an incongruent energy that needs to be released. And if you were to just go to a holistic practitioner and you were to release the energy and you don't honor the programs that are driving and creating your reality, your subconscious mind will create more issues for you. So the resolution needs to be holistic. It needs to honor everything that you are as a multifaceted being, a beautiful mind, an energetic being, and the powerful, I like to call it super mind that you have, which houses all of the knowledge and the history of your whole soul's existence that needs to be honored. So, the energy integration system is a holistic program that walks you through every aspect of your life, from personal to professional to spiritual to sexual, so that you can reconcile all aspects of your life and you can be holistic about honoring all aspects of you. And then in the end, when you've walked through that, you can create a new life plan for yourself and all aspects of your life. Once you've created that beautiful relationship with yourself and reconciled your past experiences and your past programs and all of the rest of that. So you are now mindfully in control of the framework that you are creating moving forward for your life.
Hmm. And how does one begin to identify, because there's this area of its unconscious, it's like unconscious incompetence, and then there's like conscious incompetence, and then there's conscious competence, and there's unconscious competence. So how does one begin to develop awareness of where they're storing the trauma or where they're storing the bad emotions or programs in their body? Like, how do they start to awaken and create these programs?
I think the brilliant reality for somebody who coming to me to do the work, they're not aware of their internal dialogue. They're not self-communicating. There's zero communication between them and their emotions. There's no emotional intelligence whatsoever. We've been taught in this society to dissociate from our emotions. There's no awareness of the body as well. We are programmed to take painkillers when we feel pain and ignore it. So through societal teachings, we are taught to dissociate, period. Okay. So we need to start at the beginning. If you are causing issues in your life and you don't know why you're doing it, if you're walking out of room and you're saying to yourself, why did I just do that? You have a problem, right? If there is a discrepancy between what you want and what you're creating, you have a problem. Okay. So this is the big thing is if you find yourself stuck, if you find yourself self-sabotaging, if you find yourself acting out and destroying opportunities, destroying jobs, destroying relationships, and you don't know why you're doing it, it almost feels like somebody else is in control. We've got some work to do, right? As far as all of these technical terms and trying to understand all of that, it is so beyond what somebody that is just creating awareness of what's going on is capable of addressing. Right now, they're just in that place where it's, I don't know why I'm doing this stuff. I don't know why I can't get what I want to create in life. I don't know why I have everything I want in life and I'm still unhappy. That's really what it is. There's this disconnect. And if you're experiencing that disconnect, it's time to come and let me hold space for you so we can do a deep dive and I can show you what it looks like to connect, to understand your internal dialogue, to communicate with your body, to communicate with your emotions and develop emotional intelligence. And once you learn how to do that and connect with that piece that's acting out that you don't seem to have any control of, then you can create that harmonious relationship with the mind and body, and you're never going to feel that disconnect and feel lost again.
Interesting. So then why talk about the role of trust and vulnerability being essential in both personal and professional relationships?
It's so interesting that you bring that up because I really like to flip that whole concept on its head. I'm not a fan of the word trust. And the reason that I'm not a fan of the word trust is because of the fact that people like to use the trust to bind and control people. You need to behave a certain way to earn my trust. Now you're trying to act a particular way to get into my good graces if there's something that you want from me. So I actually would teach my clients about letting go of the idea of trust and giving people the free agency to be who they are. Let them be who they are, be unconditionally loving, accept everything that they are, and then decide here's where the discerning piece is. You decide whether you want to cherry pick that human into your orbit based on whether you like the way that they are or not. You have the free agency to let them go and live their life anywhere else or to have them in your world. But trying to dictate that they behave any way to earn your trust is binding. So I'm not a fan of that word. Vulnerability, again, is another one. We're vulnerable in one way, physically. Our physical bodies can be harmed in so many ways, and we always need to honor that. However, we do not need to be vulnerable to people in any other way. Because if we understand our worth and our value and our security and our worth and our love is all sourced internally, there's nothing that anybody can say or do about us that is going to cause us to question our worth. We should be ineffable in that regard and then be mindful of our vulnerability from a physical standpoint. So everybody that I work with, I teach them to become ineffable so that it doesn't matter what other people do because they know at all times what everybody's saying and doing has nothing to do with them at all, ever. And their worth isn't challenged by other people's decisions and behaviors. Does that make sense?
Mm, yeah, interesting. Next question I have for you is, what is the healthy way to deal with negative emotions or triggers that lead to lasting and permanent positive change?
Yeah, this is a really huge one because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people do not know how to hold space for their emotions. And I created a process, it's an acronym called This Is Love, which actually teaches my clients emotional intelligence because over the decade I've been doing this, not one client has come to me knowing how to hold proper space for their emotions. Every single one of them has been doing what society has taught us to do, which is dissociate, right? So the thing that's really important to understand, and this is the puzzle piece that most aren't teaching and that we're not taught in the everyday world. What are emotions? What are emotions for? Why do we feel them? They're not there for no reason. They have a purpose. We are experiencing emotions because it is our way of communicating with ourselves. Okay. Now, if we understand that there's a communication going on, that something is being surfaced that needs to be honored, then we can stop and go, hold on, okay, you're upset, you feel anxiety, you're depressed, you're feeling triggered, what's going on? And you can stop and listen. Okay. Now, the big puzzle piece that's really important to understand is that when you are high emotion, you are low logic. There is no logic present when we're all emotional. So the first thing that we need to do is hold space for our emotions and pamper ourselves and love ourselves. Because when you do that, you are signaling to yourself that you deserve love when you are in an emotional state. If you dissociate and ignore it, you're actually telling yourself you have no worth and you do not deserve love and support when you have emotion. So you are diminishing your own self worth the way you treat yourself when you have emotion. So let's flip it on its head and start loving and pampering ourselves. And then you start actually raising your self worth every time you hold space for your emotions and you pamper yourself through it. And when you give yourself that space until you get back to the logic, that is literally all you need to do. What do you need to do? Your nails, a facial, go for a walk, have a bath, whatever makes you feel good. Tea, chocolate, do all of that stuff for yourself. Don't try to journal. Don't try to map this out because there's no logic. Once you get to the logic, that's when you start asking yourself questions and then allowing what needs to surface to be surfaced. And then when you're working with a practitioner like me, you can learn how to properly source, process, reconcile, forgive, heal, learn, expand, and release whatever it is that's coming up so that you don't have to revisit it again. But when you go the other path and you strictly dissociate, you're on a hamster wheel and you're just going to keep reliving it with no end in sight. So once you learn this process of holding, sourcing, forgiving, healing, learning, and expanding, you now are able to take a step forward and become a better you. And then the next trigger comes and you do it and you become a better you and you just keep expanding and expanding. And it feels good because every time a trigger comes and you know you're moving forward and expanding, you're like, okay, the last one's gone. I sorted that out. This is new. When it's something new, you can abide in and it's more exciting versus being on that hamster wheel. So this is basically like a little bit of a macro view of what it looks like to hold space with your emotion.
Mhm. And just to clarify, when you say, because I've heard the term hold space and I've heard process emotions. For the person that's new to this, what is it? Describe like what holding space or processing emotions means or looks like.
Yeah. So there's actually I have a very clear like step-by-step process that I teach my clients. And when it comes to the holding space, I have what I call a self-love vocabulary. And this is where I get my clients to actually write down 10 different things they're going to do to hold space for their emotions. And what that means is not dissociating. It means not doing anything where you're actually running away. It means being with the emotion, honoring it, feeling it, and loving and nurturing yourself through that. So it could be going for a walk in Mother Nature. It has been scientifically proven that Mother Nature heals us and is de-stressing, right? Forest bathing is a thing. If you guys haven't heard of forest bathing, go look it up. Baths, tea, chocolate, candles, beautiful music, all of those things are on the should be on your list and you should be doing those. Solfeggio frequencies, using different relaxing music. There's like meditations and all sorts of things that you can listen to on like YouTube. You can look up if you have your own music that you like to listen to. For those of you girls, give yourself a manicure, or a pedicure, or a facial, do a hair mask. Guys, you can have baths and pamper yourselves too and exfoliate your bodies and clip your toenails and like go get your girlfriend to give you or a wife to give you a foot massage or give you a scalp massage. If you've got a partner you can lean on, they can do things to help pamper you and make you feel nurtured. But dissociating in TV, gambling, shopping, consuming substances, all of those are dissociative. So the only thing you need to think about when you are in that high emotion place is what can I do to show myself love and give myself space, which means go home and be with yourself and pamper yourself and be with people that will allow you to cry if you want to cry, that will allow you to rage and yell and scream if you want to. Like you need that space to just allow the emotions to flow, whatever they are. Make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah. And the other question I have for you is when, for example, if people don't know how to process emotions or they don't know how to hold space and they act out or and then they feel guilty or ashamed with these emotions and they basically don't want to, they hate feeling this idea. How do you handle that or how do you manage that?
It's really funny because I've been on the path for more than a decade now myself, and I'm a woman, motivated and driven by hormones. So even today, I find that there will be emotional fallout. You know what I mean? Depending on what time of the month it is and stuff like that. And the thing that's really important to understand as we're going through these different phases of life and our body is changing and the hormones are changing and stuff, and we might have emotional upheaval even if you're like me and you've resolved your emotional trauma from the past and you're really in control of your life, we still are these human beings being so motivated and driven by all of these chemicals and hormones that if we can hold ourselves accountable, if we can step back and if we observe ourselves being a little bit moody or being a little bit reactive, if we can go, okay, yeah, I'm having a minute right now. I'm bathing. I call myself a fire breathing dragon when it hits. And I'll say to my partner, I'm having a fire breathing dragon moment. I'm sorry for this and anything moving forward, because clearly I'm in one of those moods. So I observe and step back and I'm mindful of it. It's called, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's called metacognitive reflection. Okay. And what it is just a term for observing yourself. So you step back when you're in that state and observe yourself being and doing. And if you observe yourself being and doing these things that are destructive or not good, you can go, okay, how do I deal with this? One, apologize. Two, hold yourself accountable. And then start observing yourself and try to self correct. And if you are feeling a little bit more reactive and you can put yourself in a space that is safe to have that emotion, go to your workshop, go to your man cave, go to your room and go have a bath. Remove yourself from a situation where you might be triggered and react, right? So this is the big thing is learning how to utilize metacognitive reflection to observe and adapt and be accountable for your emotions and be mindful enough to put yourself in situations where you're not going to react and harm other people and be gentle with yourself, because even those of us who are the most aware and have done so much work still fall prey just because of the emotions that hormones create, right? So this is the human reality.
Interesting. How can people find out more about you and follow your Instagram and find out more about what you were discussing?
So you can learn more about working with me on my website, Coaching with Harmony. I've got all the information there. And on my social media, you can look me up. It's just Harmony Woodington, CHT. And you'll find me on LinkedIn and you'll find me on Instagram. Sadly, my Facebook was hacked and disabled, so I don't have that currently. But I am all over LinkedIn, and I've got beautiful newsletters that I mindfully create. There's one in particular called 3 Minute Success Hacks that I post every morning at 8 a.m. So if you guys are looking for to learn more about how you can actually utilize the power of neuroscience and how your mind works, literally 3 minutes every morning, you'll get an article and you can read it. That'll just give you that little knowledge. You can take little steps forwards towards creating that beautiful relationship with your mind that you're looking for. And if you check out the Coaching with Harmony and you're one of those people that's like, I want to do this, let's do a deep dive for 2025, then book a call and let's go.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks so much for an insightful podcast and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.